He said, quote, "He who saves his country does not violate any law." Here with me now is the Democratic senator from Minnesota, Amy Klobuchar. Thank you so much for being here. You and other Democrats on the Senate Judiciary Committee want the Inspector General at the Justice Department to investigate why DOJ dropped charges against Eric Adams. We see a lot of what happened in public with the memos going back and forth. What more do you want to learn? And to be honest, what can you do about it?
Well, I'd first say this is just another day in the Trump administration. Costs are up, chaos is up, and yes, corruption is up. They have literally taken the mayor of New York City, who was facing and is facing serious charges of bribery, which were going to be expanded, and they have turned him into their own political pawn. And they have done this by trying to force career prosecutors in the Justice Department to drop the charges against him. These were not like members of the resistance, Dana. They are people like Danielle Sassoon, someone who's a member of the Federalist Society, was a clerk for Justice Scalia, a conservative superstar, an excellent lawyer. And she said, no, I will not do that. I would rather resign the position as head of the Southern District of New York Attorney's Office. Or you have people like the head of the case, who is actually a decorated Iraqi war veteran who'd clerked for Justice Roberts. And I read what he says, Hagan Skoton, because what he says is, I expect you will eventually find someone who is enough of a fool or enough of a coward to file your motion, but it was never going to be me. And my hope is that my Republicans and colleagues in Congress start showing that kind of courage, start showing that kind of fortitude, and that follow the advice of the Constitution that they are supposed to advise and consent on these nominees like Kash Patel instead of simply accepting and acquiescing every step of the way. So this is a major assault on the justice system.
Your colleagues across the aisle who you work with, probably more than most, if any, other Democrat in the Senate, they have done almost none of what you just said. What makes you think they're going to stand up now and say, oh, I don't like this, or try to do something about it?
I don't think that right now, but I'm going to keep making the case to them as Democrats have stood up time and time again to some of these dangerous nominees like Kash Patel, like the people that you see coming into the Justice Department. And my argument to them is, number one, you know the Constitution. You know they can't just freeze these funds. And by the way, a whole bunch of Republican-appointed judges, as well as Democrat-appointed judges, have stood up and says this is illegal, it's unconstitutional. Second, you know that our policy of our government should not be giving $2 trillion in tax cuts to the wealthiest and paying for it by cuts to cancer research at NIH, something that has bipartisan support for years and years, or stopping Head Start, or freezing people who are trying to protect our nuclear stockpile. I know they are, but what I'm saying is at some point the pressure is on them. And finally, they know why some people voted for Donald Trump, and that was to bring costs down. And as I said, costs are not going down. Egg prices are skyrocketing. And I would like to see them put some pressure on the Trump administration instead of just Democrats doing it, and do something with us to bring down the cost of health care, cost of housing, cost of child care. They are not doing that right now. They are acquiescing. If they could just stand up to one of these nominees, one of them, and I would suggest Kash Patel, who has said the FBI should turn into a museum and he'd close it down, who said that the FBI is corrupt numerous times, who has said that he can reverse the effects of the vaccine with a supplement and try to make money off of that. Maybe that's the guy they should stand up
Senator,
against.
You've also said that the courts, assuming that what you just described is not going to happen, Republicans won't stand up, the courts are the last line of defense. There are situations right now, CNN reported this week, where the administration is defying court orders to get them to freeze federal funds, for example. Are we in a constitutional crisis?
We're not quite there yet, because ultimately when the final court order is made, the Trump administration is going to have to decide, and this isn't just at the top, these are lower level people as well, Are they going to face contempt charges? In the past, in the last administration, they did follow the court orders, and you do have voices in the United States Senate, like Senator Thune, the leader, or people like Chuck Grassley, even Josh Hawley, saying that you have to follow the rule of law. But if they don't, the court has inherent powers to find them in contempt, which of course could mean going to jail. And I'm not surprised that the courts are stepping in. Of course, it's Democratic attorney generals across the country that are bringing these cases. But they have basically said, no, Elon Musk cannot start rifling through the data of Americans. That violates their privacy. No, you cannot take an agreement that was made between Democrats and Republicans to fund cancer research for kids and just stop that research in its tracks. That's where you see the court stepping up.
Do you think that one of your powers, obviously, the big power in Congress is the power of the purse. Do you agree with what Senator Cory Booker told me last week, that perhaps you should withhold votes on a funding bill to keep the government open past the March 14th deadline as leverage? We shut down the government?
I didn't see that interview, but I know what our position is, and that is that, and Cory's, and that it is not Democrats who are going to shut this government down. We want to keep the government open. Every sign of that, every court case we're bringing gives you that evidence. It is Republicans that are running the government. They're running the presidency and Congress right now. And it is up to them, to keep that government running. They better learn how to run it, because right now it is pure chaos.
It sounds like you're going to be no votes by what you just said.
No, what we are doing is trying to work with them to get a budget together. And we are not going to shut this government down. They are the ones that have been shutting the government down by freezing funds and doing all kinds of things. To me, it's a pretty ridiculous argument because of the fact that they are the ones that are causing the chaos right now, and they are not standing up to Donald Trump. They have decided they want to find $2 trillion for their tax cuts for the wealthiest. And we're fine with tax cuts for people making under $400,000 a year, but we're talking about the wealthiest of the wealthiest and their buddies, Elon Musk. So they're looking for that money anywhere they can find it, whether it's on the backs of rural America, whether it's on the backs of veterans, whether it is on the backs of cancer research. I was just at the University of Minnesota and was just amazed by the work that they're doing right now and saw all of these life-saving cures and treatments they've developed. That is what's at stake here.
Senator, we're almost out of time. Speaking of Minnesota, your colleague from Minnesota, Tina Smith, said that she's not going to seek re-election in 2026. Do you think that the governor, Tim Walz, should run?
As far as I know, the governor is running for governor, and I just spoke with him in the last week. We have a very deep bench of candidates in Minnesota. We're going to win this seat, and I am looking forward to working with our nominee to make sure they get elected. I think the bigger picture here, though, is that Democrats, we are in this big time all across the country. We're in it with the courts and our Democratic attorney generals and making sure we're standing up for regular people. We're in it with Congress, with our oversight and pushing so hard on these nominees. And finally, we're in it with our constituents, and our phone system is like breaking in Congress. We're using their emails as evidence to make the case for the American people. And you see now that 66% of people believe in the last polling that Donald Trump is not doing enough to bring down costs. Republicans aren't doing it. They better get to what they promised to do, which is to work with us to bring down housing, child care, and health care costs. That's what we want to do.
He also promised disruption, and on that, he is keeping his promise. Senator, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Great to be on, Dana.
This week, the Trump administration stumbled into nuclear negligence.